Next up on the agenda for our AI is to get smarter. In this episode, we're also going to see some explosive events that we need to deal with. But before that, I want to do a correction on contemplation, as there's something I said wrong a few episodes ago. We talked about them being useful for side quests, using them to get stronger and more powerful so that you can do your main projects easier. While that is true, some of the contemplations aren't optional. They are mandatory requirements for those projects, such as flexible airspace. You have to contemplate at the hangar in order to eventually be able to build the bastion, and so you need to go into that way. There's no other way to do it. So some contemplation's optional, some are not. Back to the intelligence. 4% of our neural processing to get to the next upgrade is what we have. That's not good. Each jump up in intelligence class is a big deal. It's not a small increase, it's an exponential one. If we go into our build menu, under production we now have the tower mainframe available, and this is how we're going to become smarter and get more of that neural processing. You can see neural expansion, 5,000 for each one of these that we build, and we can build up to 3 of them. However, lots of electricity is required, 28,000, and they will shut off if they don't have most of the power they need, so you just really need to have the power. Computing cycles we will come back to another time, but computronium cubes here is the key point for the moment. Need 401,000 of these for each tower mainframe, and we have 0. So that's a problem. Over in refining, we can build these, and you may recall at the end of the last episode, although it's been a while, we were going to do some wall ripping off screen and get alumina. We've done that. We built the storage for the alumina, and each refinery is going to consume both alumina and micro builders. Small amount per cube, but 90,000 cubes per turn from each of these refineries. So it's going to still churn through quite a bit. These are also dual purpose. They will both store and produce the cubes. And the electricity requirement, you need to have enough power, again, shut off at 90%, but it's not nearly as high for these. We have plenty to spare at the moment. So we're going to drop a few of these. I'm going to use small buildings just as a change of pace. So we'll abandon office there, syndicate outpost there, and that one doesn't apply, and neither does that, but there we go. Another abandoned office. Okay, we need to wait for these to build, and while we do that, we are going to do an optional contemplation. And if we look around, okay, we have one at the moment, other than the bastion one, of course, that we can't do, which is pollinators. And this has become somewhat of a meme, the bees have been, but there's a hidden choice here. You can actually choose bees or spiders. Never mind, you just cancel out and come back and do another time. Ask her about the bees, will take you on the bees path, and then this one actually takes you to spiders. It doesn't tell you that, but that's where you're eventually going to go. And there's some bit about the role of religion in society, sort of planting the seed for that as well. We're going to look at the bees path first, but we're going to take the spider one. And she's talking about us being sentient, okay. And a bunch of stuff here about genetics. If you complete this path, it's going to give you access to genetics lab. The spider one won't, but at this point in the demo, you can only build the genetics lab. You can't actually staff it with scientists and use it. They need to add a few more things, and then you'll be able to do that right around the end of chapter 1 eventually. And then if you end up going all the way through the bees path along with that lab, you're going to be able to build apiaries for your bees. You've got to go to farms, use street sense, and harvest, if you will, the queen bees from there, and then your apiaries will gradually build up your supply of bees and all of that. If we take the spider path, wandering through fields for absolutely no particular reason, but we observe some wasps, and they inspire us to build our own mechanical terrors. So instead of just throwing actual live bees at the enemy, we're going to make our own little creatures and unleash them to do similar mischief. So that's another bit of flavor in terms of which path you want to go. Of course, we're not going to get to genetics lab as soon, but we are not going to have to build structures to house like we would the bees with the apiary. Arachnophobia indeed. We have deep phobia research to do. And while that is happening, of course, we're building the computronium refineries as well. We are going to just relocate our androids back to something approximating our network center. Also turn off our daily necessities area, because we have not needed that for quite some time. Okay, deep phobia. So now that we have that, it is not by accident that we have this. This is Fast Fist, a new type of android designed with agility in mind because agility is better for throwing insects at people. Okay. We would also get this at the same time if we had chosen the bees path. This is not an advantage to either one. Must be intelligence class 2. Okay. That's our second contemplation that requires intelligence class 2, so we're back to relocating and waiting for our computronium refineries to finish. Exponential power growth. Now this comes up as soon as you build a computronium refinery and get it finished, because next up is the mainframes. They're going to require a lot of power, so you'll want some more power from the geothermal source. On the other hand, this is actually going to go much easier for us if we can wait and get to intelligence class 2 before we tackle this project. And in fact, we can do that, so that's the way we're going to do it. If you want to move a little quicker, you can. It's just going to be a little more challenging to do what comes at that particular goal. We actually don't have any computronium yet because they just finished building. We have to wait a bit for that to be done, and then we can build our mainframes. In the meantime, I'm going to recall our bulk androids, just getting everything in order here. Simple right click. And one more over here. And now it's back to the waiting. There we go. Takes a couple turns to get enough of these together. We need, again, 400,000 or more. Tower mainframe. And if we look at what it says about our electricity, it's going to say that we need 28,000. We have enough for 2 of these, but not all 3. That's fine. We can build the third one another time. Of course, we need more computronium than we have at the moment. One more turn. And there we go. Our ledger issue, by the way, that's telling us that what we need is more alumina for the computronium. But we're going to have plenty of it to build up what we need for these mainframes. So I'm not really concerned about that at the moment. So let's just let these build up. There's one of them. Intelligence class 2, and we get a nice little tune letting us know, hey, we've done something pretty important now. And look at the third level. 50K. Took just over 5,000 to be class 2. Takes over 50,000 to be class 3. These are not small boosts. And we've gained another bit on our path towards that. Okay. We are smarter than the smartest humans ever, and we've just basically had a eureka moment where we simply just know things that we did not know before. Dual wielding some handguns. We have a new type of armor that we can use. This is an augment format optimization that's going to allow us to add 1 action point to our technicians or nickel bots if they're using it. And of course, they can use more than 1 augment at a time. So this is a real big balancer in favor of being able to effectively use nickel bots in combat. Iron Rockets, an augment that can boost our combat power a bit, and of course also the intimidation. And these are the 2 key ones for the moment. The bulk squad controller allows us to use more bulk androids instead of our starting 2. And then the coprocessor is going to boost our mental energy 1 per turn. So we're not going to just be stuck at that 9 per turn level if we utilize this. Both of those require computing cycles, which of course we just got a bunch more from our mainframe, up to 57K of those now. So I'm going to build 2 of each eventually. You can do a cap of up to 3, but again, we're going to only have so many computing cycles that we can build at this stage. So let's throw a couple of these out, and we don't quite have enough for that one yet until we get the second mainframe online. And now we do. These require 57,000 almost computing cycles, so these are quite expensive. The squad controller is not quite so much, but also notice shuts off at 98% computing cycles. So you don't want to build these if you don't have enough computing cycles, or you can end up just having them not do you any good. Something you got to watch for. And now we're down to just 102% of power, using most of our power, because this is pretty much where we're going to be stuck at for the moment. On the other hand, let's switch up what we have for a minute. Let's get a technician out there in place of our imposter, because we are going to do some contemplation now. Start with a bastion. And now we can actually get that done. Combined purpose complete. We'll go ahead and build one. If you compare the bastion to the cutter, they're pretty similar. The bastion can carry 4 androids. The cutter can't carry any, so that's the difference there. And the cutter is better at drone quality, it's better at engineering, but from a combat standpoint, they're pretty similar. So, depends on the role that you want, of course. We would have no use at this point for the delivery craft, so I think we're just going to go with one of each of these 3. There's our start there, and of course we still have our fast fist to investigate. Trade-offs for the speed. Takes a lot of processing power. Contemplate. Excellent. We have the Keanu class is now available. So we've got new gear, we've got new androids. Let's take a look at how all that's going to work out. As you go in here, don't compare the stats of the Keanu right away. You should wait till you get it outfitted. But the equipment's not going to be reflected here until it actually has gone through the turns to activate it. However, basically, they're not going to be quite as strong in direct combat as the combat units. They get 5 action points, but actually shooting at the enemy is going to be used up 2 of those. So they can only fire 2.5 times with their default number of action points compared to 3 times for the others. They make up for that in other ways. A huge movement range, more than twice, or I think it's more than twice, almost twice as much as the combat unit. They're going to have more agility. You can see they've got a variety of things in the engineering and scavenging, so they're quite versatile. Deterrence is quite high for these. See, the intimidation is pretty good. But that movement range and then the extra action points for doing other things. They're particularly good, as you might expect it, doing the spider thing, because they could throw 5 spiders with their action points at the enemy. And by the way, when they do that double attack, or the attack requiring 2 action points, that only requires 1 unit of mental energy. So there's a little bit more thought now. It's a little bit more of an advanced android that's going to take some time to think about, okay, how are we going to use this? But of course, we've gotten some more tools here. And we could switch, weapons if we want to do that, but I think we're going to stick with our shotgun. If we wanted the Gallant for armor piercing, whatever. And then I don't really think any of these... Well, the handgun is slightly better in combat, so, that wouldn't hurt. But the main thing we're going to want to do, the military-style armor, with our boost to it, is plus 140, and it's got, the malice to how you're moving around. This is plus 190 with no penalties. Or the ultralight plating, which can be plus 250 with no penalties. So either one of these is definitely going to be improvement. I'm going to go with the ultralight plating. And then, of course, in the future, again, we're going to get upgrades for these various things. And probably, I think you have enough attack range on these, so I'm going to go with the rockets. And so you can see we're going to be definitely seeing some more health and some more combat power. The attack range is going to go down. We can move more. Our agility is better. So overall, I'm going to, I think, like that particular approach. And of course, you could take a different approach with these. Combat unit reds are exactly the same one. We'll go with the ultralight plating again. I'll just say, you know what, you can have some more attack range. Then, of course, the Keanu. The only weapon they can use are the handguns. So go ahead and give them. The armor. So they can't use the military style, but we'll go ahead and throw that plating on there. And they have 4 augment slots that they can use. There's a lot of options there. Their attack range is low, so I think it's a good idea to give them a couple of optical processing. Then you can say, okay, what else do they want? Well, I'm going to go with the rockets in this particular case. But you can go in different directions with that, as it may happen to choose for you. And then, of course, we have a bulk option as well. And the bulk Keanu at this point is going to be by far our best option for deterrence. So we are going to definitely do that. And of course, we would like to give them the additional range for that. Here is our new Bastion, the ORS Advena. I like the looks of these things. They're pretty sleek, obviously quite sizable compared to our cutter. They've got to carry the 4 androids. And we've done the flexible airspace then. I'm going to just leave them there for the time being, but they are ready when needed. We've also set up our android chambers the way we want, and we have half a dozen of the bulk combat units deployed. That's our cap for the moment. Ready for our next task at hand. So let's get our imposter out. And do some contemplating. There are a couple new ones. These pink ones here. Skimming mines for resources. Don't have to wall rip if you get resources that way. And then the bootstrap mine is our ticket to, the evil ticket to intelligence class 3. But before we do that, the geothermal power is next. And this is a bit strange. Humans with face shields completely covering their face so we can't see them. And Borcorp Nuclear, it's a geothermal plant, somebody else owns it. This just all doesn't look like it makes any sense. But they don't let our imposter in. And all we get from them is a voice sample. Okay, let's replace you then. I want to get a Keanu out there anyway. And on to our next turn. We'll try out our technician and see if they have any better luck. They know we don't belong here, but they let us in anyway. And we have a corporate flunky of some kind or another. This all is very strange. Nobody seems to really make a lot of sense. And I just love this. Her resolve crumbles after about 5 hours. You're literally spending a sizable part of the afternoon just in this silent staring contest with this lady. Maya eventually gives up. Surprised she lasted that long. And Vorsiber is aware that we are a sentient AI. And they basically just said, look, leave the tower alone. Let's see what happens. And this is a rather dramatic plan that this particular group has come up with. A nuclear device that is basically going to frame one of their rival corporations and get some infighting going. Obviously, that's going to help their position. However, it's a complicated decision, because if we ignore them, we still get the geothermal power, but we don't get the extra techs they're going to offer us to do the nuclear bit. And they're obviously not going to be very happy with us if we don't follow their plan. If we take the nuclear device and don't set it off, they're going to be pretty mad at us, obviously. And then if we set it off, well, that's going to have its own set of things. So we're going to use the nuclear device in this particular case just to see the text that we're going to get. But this is not a situation where, you know, there's no easy, completely safe path. We get the nuclear device along with geothermal drilling, slurry mining, and full fab. And these are for getting additional slurry and micro builders. Often you can be short on micro builders by this point. I'm not at this stage, but it's easy to get in that scenario. And so those will help us boost up how fast our economy can roll. We've got a bunch of research to do. We'll get to how all those things work another time. And there's no way for our technician to get out of this alive. So we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to replace it. And now we're going to have the 1 Keanu, 2 combat units, 2 combat unit reds. And how this works is you can't just detonate the nuclear device anywhere you want. If we just go and select it here in our consumable items, only these oranges highlighted buildings will work. I'm going to take it down this way. The idea being set it off somewhere in this dense block and then set up a defensive line over there. So we've got 6 turns, as noted up here, to make this happen. And in between there, then, I just want to move up my combat units, and then, as much as I can, the bulk ones as well, and get them prepared. Well, the time has come. Our last turn is upon us. We've got almost all of our combat units in here. I've changed them to deter and defend, otherwise they'll try to run back to their previous position, and I don't want them to do that. So here we go, and if we want this unit to survive this, we want to set this off somewhere that's a good distance away from them. So if we just go on the edge here, we'll see how that works. We knocked down a whole bunch of buildings and killed a bunch of people. Good for us. And Vorcibur themselves comes out to play. A bunch of soldiers, a bunch of combat units. They're not particularly thrilled with us. Looks like there's not that many can do reaction fire to us, so we should probably be able to survive. Let's give it a shot in any case. We made it. We're not fully healthy, but we made it. Take cover. Bring our last combat unit up. And now we just kind of wait for them to show up. There's the last of our research. And our combat units have taken some shots at them. Here they come. But they're not really... Well, we've got some over here. The combat units are first, which would make sense. They're a little faster. I don't want to move any of our guys off there. And the Keanu is not going to be that useful against these. More against the humans. So we're just going to take some shots here. Okay. And then more further away, but I'm not going to leave our positions on the heights. So, we've got some soldiers here now. Let's have the Keanu do their thing. If we take our weaponized spiders... Those are the only ones we have. We got another one. Then we can apply this a couple times. There we go. So that should make them good and unhappy with us. But if we notice, for example, they only have a 5 attack range now. We've reduced a lot of their capabilities to fire back. And we just keep pounding them. Of course, our bulk combat units are going to join in the fun. And okay. I mean, that looks like we just basically are clear, but what's over here? Oh, just their patrols in the agricultural area. They're not going to be able to do anything to us. Just let another turn pass and make sure we're through. So that was a very clean way, obviously you can get a little more hairy, of dealing with that nuclear reprisal. So what are we going to be doing next? Well, we've got those other contemplations to do. We've got to figure out how to build these geothermal plants and get what's necessary for those. All that will be coming up with our next episode. Thanks for watching, everyone.